Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
Here is a bonus Here We Go episode. I did not want to waste any time after our very good day in London. So if you're listening in real time, this is Thursday, March 26th, I believe. And yesterday, on Wednesday, I was in London. And we took the train, myself and Alex Gray. We took the train from Portsmouth into Waterloo Station in London. And then we were on the train to Kingston, which is a part of London. And we had a great conversation with some folks. And we will see what comes from that, what the Father might be doing. Then we had a great Lebanese lunch, okay? I think this may have been my first Lebanese lunch officially. And so it was really, really good. And we had good conversation, just getting to know people more. And then we walked about for a bit. Kingston is a very, very historical, interesting place. But as it usually is with places where the Father sends me, they have previously been strongholds of death. And the Father is looking to make them now massive strongholds of his life. So Kingston is very, very interesting. And whenever I am in historical places, I thank God for what they have meant in history, significant things that have happened there. But I always say, now, Father, it's not enough that they remain historical. They must become fresh. They must become places now of active, organic strongholds of your life. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but each of us are a stronghold of his life. He's built inside of us in spirit who we are to him. This is his resting place, believe it or not, in the earth is us. And we each are strongholds of his life. He is our stronghold, and then we become a stronghold of his life, meaning that he now has the greater grip on us. He is our high tower that we run into. He is everything. And then we become a door into now for him to enter in, whether it be a conversation, a location, a territory, a home, a gathering of his people, whatever that may be and however that may look. So it was quite a day. I don't understand all the history just yet, but so I don't want to try to wax eloquent about it. But I can tell you it was significant. It was a significant location. Then as we moved on, we left our young generation friends and we got back on the train. And then we met our other generation friend, which was Dan Dunn. Because when all the generations are coming together, it is, so good. So then we met up with Dan, and we then took, which I did not see this on my bingo card for yesterday. I was like, okay, we're going from train station to train station, and that may be all we have time for. But we said, okay, well, we'll step outside the train station, and we just took a little walk, and we turned a couple of corners, and the next thing you know, we're on the River Thames. I'm looking at the London Eye. I am looking at Big Ben. I am looking at Parliament. I am looking at such iconic places. And I'm there, and I'm standing there. And it was a wild and windy day. in London and Kingston. I mean, my eyes were watering. The wind was blowing so strong, so cold that when it hit your eyes, tears just pouring out of my eyes. And yet I was loving it. And it was just amazing. I'm like, how did this happen? We did not plan to see these things, but boom, there you are. And, you know, people who live here, they're just walking by, running, jogging, doing this, doing that. I'm like, do y'all know where you are? Do you see what's right there? So then we went into a little bakery, cafe, coffee shop. And so we were just going to sit, Dan, myself, and Alex, and just catch up a little bit and talk and share the happenings of our days together. And I'm just sitting there and I turn around. I'm like, right out the front doors of the bakery. I mean, there's Big Ben. I mean, it just kept hitting me. And I think, you know, Father, you can get us anywhere you want us to be if we're willing to go. My friends, there's nothing that God can't get done if we're willing. And so that was pretty amazing. And today is going to be a really enjoyable day today at Firm Foundation, which is the work that the leadership of Oasis Church and Alex have been overseeing, cultivating, forming, building. It's quite a work, and I look forward to being there today and seeing it and experiencing the people. So, but what I wanted to share with you today is something that I kept hearing when we were getting on and off the trains in London yesterday. And that you not only hear these three words, but they're written on the platforms when you're getting on and off the train. So you hear it and you see it. It is very, very important. And they say it over and over and over again. What are those three words? They are mind the gap. Mind the gap. And when you hear it, you know, you go, oh, you know, okay, thank you for the warning, because it's a warning. Mind the gap. And the more I heard it, I remember saying to Alex, okay, I'm going to need to make note of this. This is something the Lord is telling me, for me. And this is where I have to be careful that I don't immediately think, oh, no, this is for everybody else. No, this is for me and for you. So I have shared, it was a long time ago, but there's a concept called word capture. And it's where you hear something in everyday language, you know, everyday comings and goings, but it gets your attention and you capture the word and you pay attention to it and you heed it and then you formulate it and you share it. And I do this quite often. And mind the gap is definitely a word capture. And I want these words, this warning, to capture you. And let me just say this, okay? This phrase that I heard all over London when riding on the trains, mind the gap. It happens every time the train doors open. You hear this warning, and it's telling you, be careful of the space between the train and the platform. And the more I heard it, the more I realized this is not just a train warning. This is a very current living warning for us. It's a life warning, a formation warning. Because the most dangerous place in our life is not where we start, not where we're going. It's the gap between what you know and how you live. So I do want to give these three thoughts to you today. And yes, as warnings. Point one, the gap between knowledge and formation. So much is built on knowledge. There can be, if you're in Oxford right now, there is much study, much research, reading, thinking, formulating ideas, preparing essays, starting to really allow the Father to form Christ in you at such a deeper depth. And the way that it's happening is brand new for many. And right here can be the danger, is that knowledge is not the same thing as formation, though knowledge can be used in the process of formation. We're all going places. Please heed this carefully. We are all going places we have never been before. And sometimes we are surprised, frustrated by the gap, because we're quite confident in what we have known, where we have been. But the Father is on the move, and therefore we are on the move with him. So we could learn all the Greek, the Hebrew, all the theology. We could have leadership principles. We can examine all manner of worldviews, church history, and yet we could remain unchanged, unformed, unprepared as a person. Because information can fill the mind, and if we've always taken great pride in our mind and our mental muscle, as I did, in my ability to be able to handle things, you just have to conquer it in your mind. You just have to, this or that. Of course, that is something I've had to shun over these last 30 plus years, and be willing to live in the sometimes frightening awareness of how little you know, how little control you actually have, which causes you then to lean deeper into him. So information can fill the mind while the self-life remains completely undealt with. And this is a great danger. When we are in a deep learning season, our learning curve is so intense, because we can learn about truth without being formed inwardly by truth. We need to mind the gap. And the gap appears sometimes when knowledge increases, we gain new language, our influence is growing, but humility is not. Obedience is not increasing. Love is not increasing. Inner transformation and the deep formation of Christ in us is not increasing. And when the gap gets wide enough, it is possible for a person to begin to live a double life, so that what they know and what they are no longer the same thing. So you might want to ask yourself, where has my knowledge grown faster than my formation? That does not mean that you have to stop the input of knowledge, but there's a stretching that's coming. There's an increase of your capacity for him. And there's no way for that to not be uncomfortable. So we have to be careful that comfort is not our goal, that feeling in charge again, that we don't start to pine away, to want to go back, to stop, to disengage, to I'm just going to do my duty, right? For those that are in Oxford, they know that's a part of the Bonhoeffer path, right? Is that you just finally reach a place where you're like, I'm just going to do my duty. What do y'all want? What do y'all expect? Here's what it is. Here I'm giving it. Okay, let's go. And it is shut down mode. And I'm saying, mind the gap. We want to be in pace with the Father. He's doing the inward formation. You don't do that. I don't do that in people. But when I'm hitting new depths of what has been, the requirement is upon what has been given. Maybe I didn't even know how much I'd been given. Maybe I did not understand where he was taking me. Maybe I've not yet seen the breadth and height and width and depth of the measure that he's put within me. And I need to mind the gap that when I'm going from one place to another and I'm stepping across a threshold, you mind the gap that is there. You don't want to fall in between, if you will, the train and the platform. Trust me, yesterday I became very aware. There were some moments where there was hardly any gap, but then there were some times where I was like, whoa, I think my whole body could fit between the platform and the train. And that's where I was gripping the handles a whole lot more consciously. So that first one was the gap between knowledge and inner formation. The next is the gap between conviction and courage. The Holy Spirit may be bringing very, very strong conviction right now. Conviction about truth and about Christ. Conviction about what is true in the world and what is truly going on in the church and the condition of mankind and the overwhelmingness of what lies before us. You know, conviction alone will not be enough, because I can be under the serious conviction things are in bad shape. Ooh, look at the need, right? So the history is full of people who had conviction privately, but did not live in a courage that made itself known publicly, meaning by the decisions that were being made. So conviction is what you believe. Courage is what you are willing to suffer for. I'm not saying that's the full breadth of courage, but courage is what you are willing to endure for. It says in Luke 9:51 that Jesus gathered up his courage for the journey ahead and steeled himself for that also, which means to mentally prepare. You see, they go hand in hand. The mind of Christ being formed deep in the new man, because that is the mind of the new man. I mean, I know that you're aware that the new man is a full creation, a full person. That's you. And the new man has a mind, the mind of Christ. You have the courage of Christ, the faith of Christ. You're as loved as Christ. Everything that's his is yours as the new man. You're a full being. And that gets lived out as we allow the breaking to happen so that more of him can be expressed. Your oneness with him can be expressed. So gathering up courage is very, very important, because Jesus knew to whom much had been given, much would be required. So there's always a gap between conviction and courage. And we want to be those who understand that though there may be a gap, right, that they do go hand in hand. The courage of my convictions, that the convictions that Holy Spirit brings to me, he does bring an accompanying courage to go with it. But I've got to mind the gap when I'm going from what he's showing me to what he might be requiring of me, as that is continuing to be formed inwardly. So many people can study truth and they may love it. They're great students and they just love to study truth. They agree with that truth. They will discuss for hours that truth. They love to teach that truth. But when the moment comes where that truth must be formed more deeply in them, totally affecting how they live their daily life, and where it becomes costly, they may step back. They don't mind the gap because they're not going to step across the gap. An unacted upon conviction does not stay neutral, my friends. It slowly turns into compromise. Let me say that again. Unacted upon conviction does not stay neutral. It slowly turns into compromise. If we do not act on what we believe, eventually we adjust what we believe to match what we are willing to do. So we may wax very eloquent and have many philosophical discussions, but never do we come to the point of making the decision to actually live it out in obedience. So, I would ask you, what do you say that you believe that is not yet visible in how you live? Now, again, that's not about performance. That's not about you going out and trying to make something happen. It's simply a question of reflection. Because this is the second gap between conviction and courage. Mind the gap. The last one is the gap between calling and character. So many times we talk about calling, purpose, destiny, influence, our platforms, our leadership, but very few talk about the deep development of the character and the integrity within us. And if they talk about it in human terms. And what I'm talking about is the absolute character of Christ and the integrity of Christ himself. Because to allow it to be developed, you've got to finally see that you don't have any human integrity and character. If you've not had to face that yet, if you're overly impressed with your great character, I always keep my word, I live by these principles, I do this and I do that, you do not yet know the depth of self. You know, everything human has limits. Human integrity has limits. Human character has limits. There is no limit to Christ. And if we are his sons, his brethren, we have to be those who don't just talk about character or rely upon our human morals. We've got to get beyond that into the full, fiery development of Christ in us. And this is where many people fall in the gap. Not because they don't understand that the calling is to God himself, but because their character cannot carry that calling. Their character cannot carry the weight of the dealings that go on within an assignment, the conversations, the hidden conversations. Have I gone from sharing what the Father has given me to marketing, so that someone will choose you? So your calling, or let me say, because I believe your calling is to him. So your assignment could take you and your giftings could take you where your character has not yet been built. There is no real structure of character to stand upon in the hidden private place. When that happens, pressure is going to expose the gap. This is why I'm saying, mind the gap, be aware, let the Father begin to speak to you. And so we've seen this over and over again. When pressure exposes the gap, we see it where leaders have great gifting and no character, where there's influence without integrity, there's a platform but no depth, there's authority but there's no submission, there's visibility but no maturity. And when pressure comes, then the person collapses in the gap. They didn't mind the gap. They didn't even see that there was a gap. Therefore, when they stepped off, they weren't mindful of it and they fell through the open space. So ask yourself, is my influence, or if my influence grew suddenly, would my character be able to sustain it? If what you dream about and think you're ready for, if that happened today, would you have the inward character to be able to sustain it? Or would you collapse? So don't be condemned by this. This is a part of the recognition of why the Father is saying, mind the gap, give me time this year, let me take you where I want to take you with me, so that the two of us can move together. Because this is what the Father warned me, is you are not yet ready for what I am about to do. This is very key. He is giving us time. So we want to make sure that we are not seeking more influence, more events, more conversations. Ooh, this is happening. And you can just feel the ratcheting up of the excitement. It's like, are you ready for what's on the other side of all of that? Oh, you're taking all these trips and you're in all these nations. Yeah, yes, duck and roll, my friends, duck and roll, or mind the gap. Because doing a cross encounter this coming weekend, that's not just about a 3-day event and then boom, we're done. No, it's Father, what are you doing in those who will hear you? What is on the other side of that? Do you understand? Someone else may be just about to enter into, quote, cross encounter, which is an encounter with him, right? I'm already way down the road as he's been preparing me for if and when there might be the request for more. Remember, those who have oversight have to exercise foresight with the Father. What has he been preparing? What has he been getting in place? So here's the warning as I close out today, my friends, in this bonus Here We Go episode, because I'm sure there will be another one in our regular rhythm. But here's the warning, mind the gap, because what can be the most dangerous place in our lives is not where you started, not where you're going, but the space between what you know and what you live, what you believe and what you actually decide to do, and where you are called and who you are becoming. Most people don't fall at the beginning or at the end. Most people fall in the gap, listen carefully, during the transition. During the transition. The gap is when you're going from the train to the platform. From the platform to the train. It's in times of crossing over, which for those of you in Oxford, that is a major part of Oxford. It is the crossing over. And that's why the load-bearing ones had to have others to find the low place in the river so that they could cross over without being carried away in the rushing waters with all that they were carrying inside of them, because there was something to be built on the other side. The Father is building, apostolic. The Father is speaking, prophetic. And he is getting us ready at all different measures. Don't worry. If you're not called to the nations, don't worry about that. You tend to the measure, whatever it may be, because the measure was set by God. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you influence 12 nations or 12 people. The issue is the faithfulness unto the Father and that which he has given. We want to be those who mind the gap. For maturity comes when there is no longer a gap between what you believe and who you are. Because he's making you right now. They are building a certain kind of person. And I want to say to you, mind the gap, my friends. Mind the gap. During times of transition, we do not want to get lost in the crossing over. We do not want to back up. Because if the train doors open, and for you to get where you're going, you have to step from the train to the platform or vice versa. We don't want to stay on the platform when it's time to step into the train. We don't want to stay on the train when it's time to step onto the platform. I'm talking about train platforms. Do not shrink back, my friends. Hebrews 10, the very end of Hebrews 10. Do not shrink back. Step forward, but mind the gap as you go forward. I love you all.
Information on Nancy, please visit nancymccready.com, or follow her on social media at NB McCready.